Hello, everyone. My name is Barry Sponsler. I'm a solution consultant with EXTOL International, and I'm here today to talk about 7 ways that application infrastructure and middleware will help drive growth at your company. As companies grow, they're faced with various challenges related to B2B e-commerce. And so what are some examples of these types of challenges? Well, in my many years of dealing with various prospects and customers, I've compiled this list here with just a couple bullets for some major industries, and these are the kinds of things I've seen. So in the medical industry, there's a lot of B2B e-commerce things that happen to growing companies as they try to meet the various standards and also the requirements related to new regulations. There's a lot of data exchange that happens, and so companies that are growing in the medical space need to get more and more of these requirements thrust upon them. In addition, especially in today's environment, the transactions related to medical products and pharmaceuticals, there needs to be a lot of visibility and traceability for those transactions, and that puts additional demands in the B2B e-commerce area. For transportation logistics, growing transportation companies, growing 3PLs, they're constantly faced with onboarding of new customers and shippers and service providers. You have some coming on, some dropping off, so this is a thing that needs to be addressed early and often. And also, too, many times the shippers in this space are not very sophisticated from a technical standpoint, but 3PLs and transportation companies need to support them. So they're faced with integration challenges for folks that really can't participate with traditional EDI environment. For consumer goods, there's a lot of activity in B2B e-commerce related to demand-driven replenishment, vendor-managed inventory, and also those partners, your partners that you're actually performing the VMI for, they need access to their data securely and on demand. They want to be able to come in through some kind of portal or dashboard and see what types of products, what types of inventory they have at the various locations that you're servicing for them. In the distribution space, many distributors need to publish their product catalogs to various exchanges and repositories. These often entail different file syntax types and communications protocols. And in addition, a big worry of distribution is reducing those chargebacks. If you can't handle these transactions cleanly and accurately, you get charged back, and that will negatively affect your vendor scorecard. So you're constantly trying to improve your vendor scorecard, and a lot of that is related to how you handle the B2B e-commerce challenges that come your way. For retail, there's a lot of data associated with the retail environments today, point of sale data, vendor data, customer data, demographic data. All these kinds of data need to be fed in to some kind of back-end, BI type applications so that buyers and managers can make good decisions regarding the types of inventory and the kinds of things that are happening in each one of their stores. And in addition, a lot of retail organizations are constantly taking on new vendors and service providers, and so they need to be integrated up with them quickly and easily. Manufacturing, especially for manufacturing processes that require an extended time frame, you need to communicate information about where products are in the manufacturing process with various industry hubs or partners. And again, sort of related to the transportation logistics space is that many times manufacturing companies use offshore partners and they're not very technically sophisticated. So how do we improve your B2B e-commerce with these less technical offshore partners? So what really sums it all up is that if you can't deal with these additional B2B e-commerce challenges effectively, they have negative effects on your business. So what are some of the examples of the negative impacts that having a poor B2B e-commerce implementation have on your business? The first one is it's an increased time to revenue. Your VP of sales or somebody brings in, you got a brand new account, but yet they have some, let's say, non-traditional, non-EDI type of B2B document exchange, and you're not prepared to do that. So it takes a long time to get them on board, and then it's a long time to get their purchase orders automated, get your invoicing out so you can receive your payments. So having a poor B2B e-commerce environment will definitely result in an increased time to revenue. Another negative effect is you definitely have much higher operating costs. Without good automated B2B e-commerce, you're forced to utilize a lot of extra manpower, labor, temps, these kinds of things. These result in higher payroll costs, more costs related to bad order data, bad shipping data, and it's all around not very good for your company or your customers. you know that the guys right down the street that you're competing with are trying as hard as they can to automate their B2B e-commerce processes. So if that doesn't happen in your company, you're definitely going to be less competitive than you could be. Another negative impact is that when new mandates come from your trading partner community, industry associations, the government, if you don't have a good strategy in place, then it takes you a long time and makes it very expensive to respond to these types of new initiatives. In addition, if your B2B e-commerce infrastructure is legacy or not very up to date, sometimes the quality of the information that's getting delivered to your back-end systems is lacking. And because you're not able to properly validate the data, review the data, and so it ends up in your back-end systems and causing all kinds of extra steps and costs and bad interactions with your customers and vendors. Because of poor quality information, what happens is that then the people that are making the decisions, the buyers, the people running your warehouse, the various other key positions in your company, if the data's bad, then they're sort of making decisions on data that probably isn't right, and then there's a whole downstream waterfall process that happens after that. So they make a bad decision based upon bad data, resulting in bad outcomes, so on and so forth. So that definitely negatively impacts your company because you have to then go back and try to patch all that and resurrect the relationship and things like that. And what this really, the end result is that if you can't handle and meet these increasing demands for B2B e-commerce, then the management team has lower confidence in the IT department's ability to deliver. And so that can affect the whole organization, so that when they're out there trying to scare up a new customer, they finally land one and they bring it in, they have to have confidence in you that you're going to be able to onboard and integrate with these folks in a reasonable period of time for a reasonable cost. So those are the negative effects by not having a sort of modern B2B e-commerce infrastructure. So if you're in a growing company and you're not addressing these challenges effectively, and you're experiencing one or more of these negative effects, then what do you do? What can you do? Well, I would suggest that you need to embark on a process of developing and deploying a comprehensive application infrastructure and middleware strategy. So what does that mean? The application infrastructure part is really your enterprise level hardware and software application environments. This is how your data center is set up, how your communications are set up, your whole firewall, your ports to the outside world, those kinds of things. What kind of operating systems do you support? VMware, do you have a bunch of physical servers? All these kinds of things. That's the one part of it. But what I'm going to focus on mostly today is the middleware piece. And so the definition of middleware is really the sort of software glue that ties together all the various applications, various software components and services, so that they all can work together. Because you have different applications, different types of databases by different vendors located in one or more places, and all these things need to be able to talk to each other, quickly, easily, and hopefully cheaply. So that's the middleware piece. That's why it's so important. And a well-known research organization has predicted that there's going to be significant compound annual growth rate for the purchase of AIM products and services by small businesses, which they define as less than 1,000 employees, through 2017. So why would they make a prediction like this? There's got to be some reasons why SMBs are going to purchase and increase their purchasing of AIM-related products and services. Well, they know they have to do something. They can't keep hiring more temps. You can't keep hiring more programmers. You just can't do this as you're expanding. You got to take a different approach. But the challenge is that most SMBs that I've worked with are resource constrained in one or both of the following ways. Either they are dollar constrained, staff constrained, or both. And so when you don't have much money and you don't have much staff, it really is difficult to develop a larger B2B e-commerce footprint. It really takes a lot of thinking about how you're going to modernize, how you're going to make your B2B e-commerce infrastructure more valuable to your organization. I would suggest that there's this concept of B2B hyperconnectivity. And what that really means is the ability to easily, and that's the key, to easily integrate with multiple data sources and services using a variety of B2B communications protocols. And you have to do all that. You have to easily be able to integrate with those, but it also needs to be cost effective, rapidly deployable, secure, and scalable. Anybody can hire jillions of programmers and tons of companies to come in here and do that, but that's not cost effective or rapid, or, and it may or may not be secure, and it may or may not be scalable. So the true definition of hyperconnectivity is being able to easily integrate whatever people want to send you, however they want to send it to you, and you got to be able to do it reasonably cheaply, fast, secure, and you got to be able to put a structure in place that as your business grows, you don't have to swap it out. To understand this, I sort of used you can sort of go back to a paradigm of how we, in today's sort of environment, especially us that are in the techie space, how we're personally hyper-connected. And it starts with your smartphone. Almost everybody has a smartphone. Almost everybody has a data plan. And so what happens is your smartphone is sort of your single device to support interactions with all types of services and data. You have 2 or 3 email accounts configured on your phone. You're watching Netflix and stuff like that, which is video streaming. You're doing interactions with Facebook and all your social media using their particular networks and protocols. You actually use your smartphone for a phone. Hey, isn't that sort of unique? We use it for directions and mapping, and heck, you can even do your banking on your phone. This is an example of how a single device connects you personally to all types of data sources and data services, and it also does it easily. You go to the App Store, you search for what you want. Half the time the stuff is free. The other time you're paying sort of a marginal amount. So you pay $3.99, you download the app, it just starts working. You don't have to be a programmer, you don't have to figure all this stuff out. You basically download the thing, install it, and all of a sudden now you're exchanging a new type of data. You're connecting to some other data source or data service. That is the concept of hyperconnectivity, but it's really sort of brought to the personal level, how people are actually hyperconnected. So now we take that same idea and we apply it to a business-to-business e-commerce hyperconnectivity type scenario. Just like the phone sits in the middle, your AIM software and services sit in the middle, and it allows you to connect to all types of data sources using all types of communications protocols easily. So you have your traditional trading partner exchange with EDI or XML or something like that. Perhaps you're using, a 3PL warehouse type service. You're talking to cloud apps like Salesforce, NetSuite, Workday, all these types of things. And that's all sort of outside your firewall or beyond your firewall. That's your external things that you need to connect to. And then down the bottom represents all the things perhaps that are behind your firewall internally. Like you have various databases and applications. You have your traditional sort of ERPs or your TMS or your WMS. And then you also need to be able to execute these things on a variety of platforms, Windows, Linux, Mac. And then on top of all that, there's got to be support for the multiple syntax types, data syntax types, EDI, database, file, XML, spreadsheets. And you have to be able to monitor all these processes while they're happening in your environment. So your business needs to be hyper-connected, needs to have a strategy in place, needs to have software and services in place so that your business can act just like your smartphone acts, that it allows you to connect to all types of things quickly and easily. So that's how hyperconnectivity can sort of be related to a business-to-business e-commerce type implementation. If you accept the concept of B2B hyperconnectivity, then you say, okay, that sounds good. How do I go about doing something like that? How do I get a B2B hyperconnectivity approach going? Normally, there's a couple different ways. There's 2 different ways primarily. One is your tactical approach. You can say, okay, so a new customer comes with you, or let's say it's an existing customer that represents a significant portion of your revenues, and they come to you and they say, guess what? We used to do EDI with you. We're switching over to XML. By the way, we used to do FTP with you, and now we're doing AS2. So you need to change both the syntax of the documents we're exchanging, and we need to change the communications protocol. So you can go out there in a very tactical type manner. You can find a point solution, a small, cheap little thing. You can sort of hook it up, get it installed, get one of your guys trained on how to use it. You can slap it on a server somewhere. You can do a bunch of custom code, and you can get the thing going. So it'll just take your ERP data or take your application data, manipulate it however it needs. For this one particular customer, you can go ahead and deploy that. And while this type of solution offers many times a lower initial deployment cost, what happens is that in the end, it costs you a lot more money because now you sort of have specialized applications. If you need to make a change to that, you've got to have specialized folks. And normally it results in much higher ongoing maintenance costs. The second approach is your strategic approach, and this is the one that I would recommend, is that what you're doing is you're sitting back and understanding that B2B hyperconnectivity is a big issue. And so you're saying, okay, I'm not going to solve this thing in 5 minutes, but I do need to solve the problem. I'm going to sort of step back and take a longer term view. I'm going to really try to understand what a comprehensive solution looks like, and knowing that the strategic solution often requires a higher initial deployment cost because you're looking at a comprehensive strategy, you're looking at full featured integration platforms, and so those are going to cost you more at the beginning, but over time, because you're taking a standardized, structured approach to integration, it results in definitely lower ongoing maintenance costs over time. And that's what I've seen a lot with my experience. What does a tactical approach look like? Let's just drill down into each one of these and sort of find out the devil's in the details. What really happens when you take a tactical approach? You can see across the top here that here's your sort of people that you need to exchange data with. Here's the same thing as before. Maybe you have some divisions within your company's remote locations. You have your sort of customers you need to exchange data with, or suppliers. You have these third-party apps, warehousing, distribution, and you have your cloud. Then the second level down there is all these different types of people that you need to exchange data with, or entities that you need to exchange data with, all have their different requirements. Some are going to send you EDI, some are going to send you XML, some are spreadsheets, some are flat files, some are very application specific like SAP iDoc, for instance. And so you can take the tactical approach, but what you end up with is a bunch of silos. You end up with a bunch of point solutions. This one does XML. You got an EDI translator. You got an XML thing. You got a little spreadsheet app, these kinds of things. And so you have to install all these, and you're paying maintenance on all these. You have to have personnel trained on all these, and you end up with all these, what I refer to as a programming or tool silos. So you have EDI in a silo. You got XML in a silo. You got spreadsheets in a silo. And then, of course, you have to then push and pull from your back-end applications, which might include ERPs, CRMs, WMSs, or straight-ahead databases or BI tools. So you're having to sort of do this mishmash of trying to connect all these point solutions to the various things that they need to go to behind the firewall in your enterprise. And so that can be challenging from a technical perspective, and also then from an ongoing management perspective, that if these things break down or if you lose, key people that are trained on this, it sort of leaves you vulnerable. So while it may be initially cheaper to deploy these, over the long term, this sort of turns into a maintenance nightmare. If you wanted to consider a strategic solution, you sort of start with your integration middleware piece in the beginning, in the middle, just like your phone, okay? And so basically what happens is you can take on your traditional trading partners that are sending you various types of files using all different kinds of communications protocols. You can talk to your cloud-based applications using web services with XML payloads. And you can also then address all of your behind-the-firewall needs through database connections, flat file interfaces, whatever those happen to be. But once again, it's focusing on that integration middleware piece that provides the sort of single point of contact. It's the funnel that everything's going in and out of, so that you have a single platform and a single technical skill set to address all of your integration needs, regardless of whether they're external or internal. And then, by the way, you need to also be able to monitor the activity going through your system, and your trading partners need to peek in there too. So your integration middleware piece not only needs to control the processing, the data transformation, the error handling and stuff, but it also needs to expose that data so that people can take action on it should that be required. What are the attributes associated with a strategic solution? So I'd say there's three primary attributes, and I'll go through each one of those right now. The first one is what I would pose to be an integrated solution. Any integration middleware needs to be integrated. So what does that mean? It sounds like an awful lot of integration going on. Well, an integrated solution, you should be able to buy the solution and there should be no third-party prerequisites. When you get the solution, you install it, that's it. You don't have to get a license to SQL and get a license to something else and get a license to something else and then try to put it all in the same server and try to manage all the ports and try to do all the stuff so the stuff all works. You should be able to buy a platform that installs everything, is all contained within that platform. This is also very important, is that another attribute of an integration solution is that the user experience for the people configuring the integrations and then also monitoring the integrations should be uniform and consistent. There's many products in the market that are sort of the build it or buy it type of thing where they merge several companies and then they merge the products, and so you have, even though it's under one product name now, it's actually an assembly of components that were independently developed, and then they built a bunch of bridges between them. And so the way you map XML is different than the way you map EDI, which is different than the way you map flat files. And so that can be confusing and cause a lot of extra training and things like that. So your integrated solution should be uniform and consistent regardless of what types of integrations you're building. You should be able to meet multiple business integration requirements with that platform and a single skill set. So it relates to the bullet above in the fact that no matter what type of integration requirements you're facing, it should be all contained within the single platform and skill set so that you train your technical staff and then they can handle everything that comes their way. And then, of course, you really need to be able to support any trading partner format. So no matter what people throw at you, EDI, XML, flat file, or spreadsheet, you can just assimilate that data and move it in and out of your enterprise applications quickly and easily. Your integrated solution should have embedded B2B communication support. There shouldn't be a whole bunch of communications products based upon protocols that you need to be able to talk to. It should all be in there. So those are the attributes of an integrated solution. Here's some attributes of what I would refer to as an efficient solution. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the actual solution itself should be easy and efficient to use. One of the components of that is that there should be a lot of wizards in a user interface. I mean, standard object creation should be wizards. It should be next, next, next. You shouldn't have to have a master's degree in computer science to learn how to use the thing. So an efficient solution includes a lot of wizards. An efficient solution also includes the concept of smart mapping or map repositories. What that really means is that you should be able to collect data, collect associations between various source elements and target elements, between the various maps that you've built in the system, so that when you have to create new maps that are roughly similar, your product should know that you've already built maps like this before, and they should be able to offer you suggestions or guidelines on how to develop this new map with a high degree of precision, accuracy, and do it very quickly. So the smart mapping component is definitely a part of an efficient solution. An efficient solution should support the concept of reusability, meaning that as you're building your objects, you're building your process models in the system, they should all be reusable. You shouldn't have to build them over and over and over again. When you generate a schema for a 850 version 4010, you should be able to apply that schema to all of your trading partners that need it. You shouldn't have to create separate instances of that schema for individual maps and things like that. Those are some examples, but the objects that you build in your system should all be reusable. Once again, that promotes efficiency. Another very important attribute of an efficient solution is automated exception notification. One of the biggest challenges in any B2B e-commerce environment is the ability to trap errors in a near real-time sense, be able to report on those errors with meaningful error messages and or references to source data, target data, or whatever the exception is that occurred, communications error, etc. And that should all be able to be automated so that the platform is running, and when it gets a little hiccup, it just reports the exception. delivers relevant error messages and process information, and then moves on to the next one. So that's very important. There should also be a auditing and some kind of dashboard component so that you have easy access to the data that's flowing through your integration platform from both a technical and non-technical viewpoint or perspective. Because the kinds of data and the kinds of processing that, let's say, an EDI coordinator would require is far different than the kinds of data and information that let's say, an accounting staffer or a customer service person needs. So your efficient solution should offer windows or should offer the data in the appropriate context to the appropriate people in your organization. And the third attribute I would propose is the solution needs to be complete. What do I mean by that? It means that when you're doing standard integrations, when you're doing straight purchase orders inbound, you're doing 856s outbound, you're doing, your 810s, your 820s, whatever that happens to be, that for standard integrations, there should be no custom programming. You shouldn't have to pre-process. You shouldn't have to post-process. You shouldn't have to call functions in order to get the stuff in and out of your enterprise application. It should be straight dead ahead. Now, of course, not every integration works that way, as we all know, but for standard type integrations where the source and target documents are based upon a standard, there should be no custom programming in your platform. A complete solution also contains the ability for team development and repositories. So you should be able to have multiple people developing integration configurations, and there should be some type of version control and also repositories so that it supports conflict resolution in case two developers are working on something at the same time where there's an object conflict. Or the other scenario, which we all don't really want to think about, is when you take a new integration configuration and deploy it to production and then somehow something messes up. You need to be able to take the previous version, which was working really well, and redeploy that very quickly so that you minimize the negative impacts on your business. Because we all know that by and large, B2B e-commerce data is mission critical. And when people stop receiving purchase orders and stop issuing invoices, that's when executive management gets pretty upset. So we need to be able to support team development and repositories as part of our complete solution. Complete solution should be scalable. So if today you're doing 500 e-commerce documents a day, and you have projected that 2 years from now you're going to be doing 1,500 per day, you need to know that if you spend the time and effort to deploy a strategic middleware solution, that it's going to be able to handle that growth easily so that you're not faced with this decision and all that work 2 years from now. So scalable is very important as part of a complete solution. Another thing, and this is, we all sort of joke about this, but in reality is another advantage of a complete solution is that you do have this single throat to choke. So many times, especially the people in tactical environments that have multiple applications from multiple vendors, when a breakdown occurs at a touch point, between, let's say, the integration platform and a communications product, or some kind of ERP adapter, and you have a specialized ERP adapter talking to your integration platform or communication application. What happens is when something happens with those checkpoints, those touch points, we're all very familiar that it all comes down to a bunch of finger pointing. So you call the communications and they're like, oh, no, that's the integration platform's problem. Our thing is working fine. And then you call the integration platform support, and they're like, oh, no, our process completed successfully. You're getting some kind of bad information from your communications guy. And so what happens is you are sitting there, and you got no one's taking responsibility. Nobody jumps in there and says, I'm going to take care of it. Well, when you have a complete solution that is end-to-end, so it's communications, transformation, interaction with your enterprise applications, error messaging, the whole thing, when it's all included, then you make one call, and you should be able to actually talk to a live person in the USA to get technical support 24/7, especially on production down. Because we all know that when production goes down, everybody gets uptight. So you don't want to have to be calling 3 or 4 vendors on production down. You want to call one. So that's an advantage, and that's an attribute of a complete solution. And then, of course, the complete solution, the company offering that should have an experienced services team so that when critical projects come on board, when you need some staff augmentation or the various things that you might need, you get some turnover, something like that, you have trained, experienced people that can jump right into your environment and keep you going until you figure out what your next steps are. So that's another attribute of your complete solution. So what are the 7 ways that if you take a strategic approach to B2B e-commerce, how does this drive growth? Well, it reduces your time to revenue. You have a strategy and platform that's all encompassing. You have a standardized methodology. You have all your people trained. And so what that does is that allows you to onboard folks a lot faster as your new sales come in or as things happen with existing customers. You're able to deploy these integrations in much quicker, much easier. And what that does is that allows you to kick out the invoices faster, and that means you're getting the money in the door quicker, bottom line. It also lowers your operating costs in the fact that you can automate all different kinds of files, structures, and syntaxes. And so you can do a lot of manual processing replacement. So now you got, 7 people manually processing stuff. Maybe you deploy a platform like this and you get that down to 2 or 1 type of thing. So I've seen that happen, and it really does impact in a positive way your bottom line because it does lower your costs. Increase competitive advantage. You deploy a platform like this and you're going to be the best guys on the block. You're going to be the last man standing. You're going to be the one that's able to take advantage of, hey, if you guys can get me on board in 2 weeks, I'm going to, give you an extra 50 shipments a year type of thing. Okay, well, there we go. So that helps. As new mandates come, as new regulations are installed or passed or put into production, you're able to rapidly respond to any B2B e-commerce requirements that are associated with those new mandates or regulations. A good integration strategy and platform will allow you to validate a lot of data and allow you to run, let's say, maybe some APIs that you have or things like that, so that the information that gets put into your enterprise applications is of much higher quality. And it should support the ability to hook into these validation type applications, whether that's hitting on databases to make sure the customer numbers are right or item numbers are right, to checking quantities and doing the things that you need to do to make sure that when information is exchanged with outside entities, it's of the highest quality, whether you're sending or receiving that data. What that does, it allows better decision making by the people that are making the tough decisions in your organization. Better quality, better decision making. Pretty easy to figure out. And what that really results in is now the management team says, wow, these guys are knocking this stuff out. I mean, I'm bringing these new customers on. I'm bringing these new suppliers on. I'm trying to lower costs. We're expanding our B2B e-commerce presence, and look at these guys. They're turning it around quickly, and things are really improving, so that then they have more confidence when they're out there pounding the pavement for new business or trying to expand the relationships with your current customers. That's about all I had today. I thank you very much for attending, and I'd be more than happy to discuss this or any other topics related to B2B e-commerce integration. So feel free to contact me, and take care. EXTOL integration, we've got you covered.